Well, once again, good morning. Thank you for joining this session titled Gen Z Students, Your Future Workforce. My name is Blake Winchell. I'm the Associate Director for Student Services with the LSU Olinde Career Center. Some housekeeping stuff. Please make sure that you keep your microphones on mute and your video hidden for the duration of today's workshop. Should you have any questions during the session, please use the chat feature to send a message. Make sure you send it to everyone so that the group would benefit from your question as well. And we will do our best to answer the questions during the session. Jenna Listredo-Siemens is going to control the chat, and she's the manager of our job search team. And so she can either direct your questions my way or answer them directly. If for some reason your question doesn't get answered, please let us know by contacting us after the event. For the best session experience, please select speaker view in the upper right corner of your screen. And then please note that the session is being recorded, hence notification at the beginning. So we've been talking about our new incoming students and what they are bringing to the table a lot internally. And so we as an office feel it's really valuable to help our kind of constituents and recruiting partners hear the same type of information that we see about our students, and to help better plan, to help better understand how to interact with the students that are there and what they are bringing to the table. This generation is called Gen Z. They're just new to campus. What we are what I hope to talk about today, want to walk through a breakdown of the overarching trends of this generation to provide some context for what they're bringing to campus, transition a little bit to what we understand about their career goals, and dive into their aspirations and statistically what they have reported as being interested in, and then talk a little bit about the anticipated professional needs that this grouping of students might showcase. So to start with this description of generation, Gen Z students were born somewhere around 1997. You'll see reports where it's a bit earlier in 95, 96, or a little bit later in 98, 99. And I think what we see with all of these generation brackets, the beginning of the generation tends to hedge both in some of the generation before them and some of the current trends now. And that's a very unique experience. But as you progress into the early 2000s, into obviously the students who were still in elementary school now, is where a lot of these generational trends will start to really pick up. Whereas most of our data at the moment focuses on the older students as they're at the point of coming to college. So this past year or so was our first graduating class of Gen Z students, and we'll be in this generation for a long time. So we're really at the cusp of this generation, as well as, well, what that means is that we're still learning a lot about who they are and what they're bringing to the table. But what we do know is that they have grown up absolutely connected to technology, that they have lived their entire lives on the internet from a very early age. They are exposed to screens as a part of who they are. So, you know, I distinctly remember getting my first cell phone in high school. My son will never know a life without a cell phone being around. And that is viewed as an extension of self rather than a new addition or a new adaptation to their life. It is just part of who they are. They experience much of their social interaction via the internet and via devices. And I mean, I think that currently we're looking at many students having to educate themselves at home virtually, and that aspect may not seem that challenging to them. They are used to engaging online. They're used to interacting on social media. They're also experiencing many of the negative aspects of social media and having to come to grips with that reality. Gen Z students and this population is the most diverse generation of Americans to date, where we are borderline having a majority-minority population. And for many of these students, they expect to be in a diverse environment. They don't expect to be the only one who looks like, to be in a room where everyone else looks like them. They are searching out opportunities to interact with others that look differently, that act differently, that have different thoughts, and that makes that impacts their choices on the schools they want to go to, the colleges and universities they want to go to, but also the workplaces that they want to be a part of once they graduate. As we'll talk about in a little while, they're excited about learning about each other and putting themselves out there as they have grown up in that environment. And that has already shown up on LSU's campus for the fourth year in a row. Now we've had more first-generation college students, the most diverse incoming class that we've had year after year after year. And so these students are here on campus. They're presenting themselves as a reflection of this generational, like this diversity breakdown. But also they are engaging in conversations about diversity, conversations about inclusion and access in a much more profound way than students previous to them. For some historical context, these students have grown up solely in a post 9/11 world, surrounded by social media. Their conversations in school and the decisions around school have been ingrained with No Child Left Behind and school shootings and lockdown drills, that's a integral part of their educational experience. They have grown up seeing a very divisive political spectrum from the presidents they have seen of Barack Obama and Donald Trump, and the media narrative that goes around with, or that has spun around both of those presidents. What we know has made a massive impact on their career decisions are the Great Recession in 2008 and the impact that it has on their parents and their parents' careers. And then recently, this wave of activism around the Me Too movement and the Black Lives Matter movement, that they are students who are engaged in those movements and those protests, and they are not sitting on the sidelines waiting for stuff to happen around them. They are engaging in that those discussions. And as we go through and really start to say like, oh, here's what they are lacking maybe professionally, and here's what their career goals are, it's not hard to draw parallels and correlations between some of these aspects of their lives. And it starts to make a little bit more sense about when we talk about their career goals, when they saw their parents lose their jobs, or their parents lose their houses from the Great Recession, or the activism that and the awareness that Me Too movement or Black Lives Matter or the political divisions have on the types of places that they want to go work, the social media and schooling really drives home the type of experience they want to have in college. And it is when you process out how these students interact, then you can design ways to embrace this mindset when they come into your spaces, or be aware of, hey, look, this is the types of services, not really services, but types of opportunities, types of content, types of onboarding processes that companies can do to entice these students to want to come work for you. And in thinking about their career goals and shifting from who they are as a generation to their career goals, they are coming to college for the sole purpose of job preparation. Almost every student who graduated in 2017, so really this first full graduating class of early Gen Zers, chose a major with job availability in mind, not necessarily their career interest, but really specifically about saying, I am doing this because of the availability of opportunities in my field. That coming to college is a means of setting up your career path, and having a well thought out, organized career path is especially important to students in this generation, but particularly those from low income backgrounds. As I mentioned, LSU is really focusing on bringing in first generation, low socioeconomic students. And the Career Center is really shifting to provide avenues for those students to understand what it means to progress successfully in an accounting field, or in an engineering field, or on a path to working for the government in political science, or whatever their major is, so that students understand the connection between their academic coursework, the work that they will need to do during college, and subsequently their how to go out and obtain those jobs that they're looking for. That we know students come to college to better themselves career-wise, but what we are finding is that many students, especially first generation and low socioeconomic status students, is that their understanding of their career path is really minimal. That helping students to figure that out is really vital for their success, so they end up in places that they find valuable, that they enjoy, that match their degree level, rather than progressing, getting to their end of their experience, and realizing that that maybe they're not as prepared as they hoped they were going to be. Close to when they come to school, the extreme majority of students expect to have an internship or an experiential education opportunity during college. And I think that is a direct reflection of what we know about how Gen Z students learn. And they learn by doing or witnessing, not being taught in a classroom. That they much prefer going out and figuring things out for themselves, or doing these problems, working through examples, doing the work, or watching someone do the work, or by, like doing their own research on it, watching YouTube videos of people doing activities, whether that's, watching people play video games and to learn how to do better, or knowing that they can go to YouTube to see how to repair their car, or learn how to fish, or whatever their interest is, that they don't feel that they need to be taught in a classroom style lecture by doing it. So that transitions when they start thinking about their career of, well, I can't just sit in the classroom and do it. I expect to have an opportunity in college to learn what this field is about by doing it, by seeing it, rather than by being taught that in accounting, here's how things work in accounting by taking this accounting, 2000 class. What that highlights is that there's a willingness for students to put themselves out there, a willingness to go get their hands dirty and connect with you as employers before they're at the end of their time here. Students are coming in at the very beginning. We've seen this some of the last couple of years, but especially in the fall, of first year students showing up, and 2 weeks into campus, they're in our office talking about internships. They're talking about opportunities to build their resume while they're here during their academic career. What they look for in companies, though, is a sense of purpose, that they have grown up with, and this is where I think we start to see the impact of the Great Recession, as well as activism and diversity, show up in their career choices. That 2/3 of Gen Z students are looking for an opportunity, a career that provides them a sense of purpose. They want to create and leave a positive impact on their society through jobs. That doesn't mean that they are looking for work in nonprofit activism, political type spectrums, but rather they want the companies they work for and the work that they are doing to matter. And so they can do that by, if they're in engineering, they can find a sense of purpose in engineering. They can find that sense of purpose in like healthcare management, or internal auditing, or communication. But if they don't connect with how they're making a positive impact on the people around them, they lack the understanding of why that job matters. Connected to that is that 3/4 of the students really are looking for opportunities that prioritize work-life balance. So the sense of purpose is clearly connected to activism. The work-life balance starts to show a little bit about what they saw their parents go through. That understanding the world around them and being connected to the world around them starts to matter outside of the workplace when they were shown that life's not all about work. And this starts to become a more powerful motivation for students when looking for opportunities. What this doesn't mean is that they are lazy and don't want to work. Um, these students know the value of hard work, but respect the life they have outside of work. That they're not just trying to be successful in the world of work, but outside that as well. They want to be successful in their lives around them. And more so than ever, more than 40% of these students desire to work for themselves. And this is where I think the recession really hammers home the impact that it made on these students, as they want to be in control of, more students than ever want to be in control of their career path, of the decisions that they get to make about their business and their livelihood, as they saw their parents not in control, and that had a powerful resonating factor on their interest in careers moving forward, is that students want their career to be in their own hands, as they see that as a way that they can control their success. That doesn't mean that right out of college they are going to open up businesses and work for themselves, but this is a goal of theirs to get to a place where they can be secure in their jobs and their careers. And I think when we look at these last two slides, we can start to say, well, how can we provide, as an employer, how can we provide an experience that might mirror those goals? That can we show students on the front end why our work matters? Can we talk to them about the impact that our company is making on their community, both in terms of the actual job that we are performing, but maybe we're involved in a lot of community community volunteering and support alongside the main responsibilities of our organization. Can we talk to students about how we provide a career path for them? Can we talk to students about the opportunities that exist beyond their first job and what it takes to get there and be secure in the growth within our organization? Can we connect them with students who have, or new hires who have been students like them in the past, and move up the chain in our office, to show that there's a path forward here that shows that they can have the life they want within our organization, and they don't have to feel that the only way to get that success and support and structure and security is by working for themselves. And talking to students about how some of those things aren't always a given, but that there are opportunities for those to be present as they move into their career. And so transitioning a bit to what those things say about where these students may could use some help, and the growth opportunities that they have, but then also where that presents opportunities for organizations and employers to step in to better connect with these students. And the first is that they have, like I mentioned earlier, spent most of their upbringing interacting with people virtually, which means that they spent more time alone or interacting with others solely virtually than previous generations. There's less specific focus on hanging out with classmates, with friends in person, and they do much more of it virtually, which leads them to have a less, kind of quote unquote seasoned social life than their maybe older peers, and they're used to not needing to be in the same space as others to get jobs done, to work on projects, that they're doing these things by themselves and interacting with their group members virtually or just via email, and they may not have ever been in the same space as their collaborators on team projects or their friends that they've met online. And that isn't necessarily a negative, but it's just something to point out. And they're used to very quick, convenient interactions with companies that they are buying products from people online. But then also, I think that starts to showcase how you can think about connecting with these students in the future, is that they're very adept and comfortable interacting online and through your website and learning about your organization there in very quick snippets. So they're not interested in sitting through a 15-minute recorded video, break that down into much more digestible sections, and students will engage in that medium to learn more about your organization, to do the research on their own, rather than feeling obligated to interact with people in person to understand your organization. And then where that we can start to connect those two is understanding that as these new students, who the incoming classes are more diverse from a much wider array of backgrounds than we have had previously, that what that brings is that many of these students lack connections in their chosen field. They are the first in their family to go to college, and so they don't know anybody who's a professional engineer. They don't have that personal network to understand how to navigate the process it takes to go apply for an opportunity. They don't know that the right path to get into your organization is through an internship, because they have no one around them to tell them that. And if we connect with these students early and say, let's talk to you about what it means to be successful in this field. Let's talk about what you need to do throughout your time in college so that you are able to transition very successfully into this field and even specific organization, that the professional polish that might be lacking when they step foot on campus throughout their time is not still present when it's not still lacking when it's time to transition into a full-time professional. And mentorship is a really strong word, but it doesn't have to be that intense. It doesn't have to be meeting with the same student every month for their entire career, but being present at and providing avenues for students to connect with organizations throughout their time here, to give them the support and guidance that you as an employer could provide in small little interactions, or that the Career Center is going to attempt to provide through programming, which we're going to connect with our employer, friends and partners to get you involved in our student programming as early as possible, so that there may be opportunities to really build and connect with some of these students. That if we look at these students are willing to work, they're very interested in working, they're motivated to come to college for jobs, that if we can help them with some of the natural deficits that they're bringing, they end up being exceptional employees, because they already have the inherent skills and desires and confidence that employers like. They just are lacking some of the traditional professional skills and understanding that some of our students in the past may have brought to the table. And so with that, I want to make sure that we have 10 minutes or so left to run through some of the questions that were popping up, or if Jenna has been answering all of those via the chat. And so,
like, we've had a lot of good questions, some of which we've kind of already answered in the chat, but for just a couple, pull up one that was great. So Alan asked a question, as you talked about job preparation and job preparation statistics for Gen Z, just about what that has looked like in past generations.
So, sorry, you broke up for a little bit. What the job preparation has looked like for
past
students in the past
compared to Gen Z. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so their students, I think he's referring to that the vast majority of students want an internship or experiential education while they're in college, and we had a set of students that the millennial generation, I suppose you could classify as this, was less aware that they needed that experiential education in college to be successful. They had been told that the way to be successful was to just go to college, and then once you graduated, you would have an opportunity. And as those, towards the end of that generation, that became obviously less and less viable. And so students started to learn while they were in school that they needed internships, part-time jobs, co-ops, but for many of our students, it was very late in the process. This is the first generation where they know coming in that they have to build that into their experience. And it's not just a degree anymore, but it's the combination of the degree and their internship or part-time job, or some form of experiential opportunity that's going to make them successful, and they expect that built into their program. We see students across the country going to specifically choosing colleges and universities that incorporate experiential learning into their academic curriculum, where that hasn't been the case in the past. And that's not to say that the students in the past were ill-prepared when they graduated. It wasn't as early. They had to be, I don't want to say convinced, but educated about the need for that early on, or during their collegiate experience, rather than just get the degree, get a job. Now its experience is woven into that framework.
Awesome. And Camille had another kind of thought, and you gave some good practical pieces there and that I think were really helpful about the virtual piece and the mentorship, that relationship building that Gen Z really appreciates. But that is a lot of different characteristics of Gen Z, a lot of things they're looking for. What would you boil down to maybe a couple simple best practices for employers to think about in their recruiting practices?
Throughout the research that is presented about Gen Z, the things that pop out the most are the sense of purpose and a sense of security. And I think that if, as an organization, we're not communicating the why behind the work, students will not connect with your organization. And while students are concerned about salary, as everyone I think would answer, yes, I'm concerned about salary when thinking about jobs, they are more concerned about the opportunities that present themselves further down the organization, and that sense of that perceived sense of security that is there. And so if we're able to talk about the why, and then talk about that it's the culture of the organization is to build and develop and help them grow so that they can create that security in their field, in their jobs with you or down the road. I think those are the two things that will really attract students to your organization and help you connect with them, obviously as a recruit, but then as a person as well. And our students are very, say our students because they're all Gen Z students now, but Gen Z students are looking to connect, and they're looking to feel like they belong in that space, and that they matter. And then if you can, as an organization, show that, yeah, here's how you connect, here's how we matter, that those are the two things that show up consistently across every kind of research article that comes out about Gen Z students.
That's great. I think that's a good underlying theme that was throughout all this that can be a good way to boil this down and kind of take it practically. Those were all of the questions that I have, but if you do have any final questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. We've got about 5 minutes remaining.
Well, awesome. I myself and the whole Career Center team very much appreciates you taking the time out of your day to be with us virtually. We wish that we could see everybody's faces again in the union, and hopefully we'll be able to do that next year. As this is, I know, one of the days that our team looks forward to the most, and so we're very appreciative that you're here virtually with us. Please reach out to myself or Jenna for more questions about our students, and we anticipate and plan on incorporating our recruiting partners into our student education as much as we can. And so be on the lookout for Jenna or myself to reach out and see if people are interested in engaging with our students in more than just a recruiting way, which in turn ends up being a recruiting way. And so I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all's day, and thank y'all, and go Tigers.